Here's the transcript without the timestamps and sequence numbers. Welcome to the new episode from Master Chaboa with the ultimate restoration. This time, the master will be restored. The classic wired headphones were made by the Ukrainian company Lafitte in the 1980s. These earphones, the model number is F990, and the frame has a snail that sticks out quite clearly. In the beginning, it had to look like this. This screw has the effect of fixing the length of the frame. This type of headset is quite familiar to those who have been to the net room. However, the model in this video has better specifications. It's branded Hi-Fi, which means high-quality audio. Its frequency responsibility is higher. Remove the shield, you can see the sound control of the earphones. However, the sponge on the controller was severely oxidized. The front panel was also damaged and could not be used again. Use the computer to remove the connector on the controller. The two gold sponge inside have the functions of sound absorption, sound insulation, and protection. After removing the wires, the complete disassembly is also complete. Next is to deal with each part in a meticulous way. The first is that the sides of the earphones have been cleaned, but the logo has disappeared completely. Use a heat gun to remove the decoration and remove the remaining glue. Scratches will be removed by polishing. While polishing, the master imagined that if there was a lathe, the job would be much easier. Finally, spray some matte black paint on the surface. So the outer shell is done. As for the piece of decoration just removed, it will be processed by rolling method for cleaning. The rolling method takes time, but the effect is amazing. Next is the restoration of the lost logo on the decorative piece. Use the photo to recreate the logo, then print with a laser printer. Attach metal trim and logo prints in the right place like this. Then apply acetone to the paper to help the ink transfer onto the metal. Acetone is a strong solvent, which helps the ink leave the paper and transfer to the metal trim. The process is not simple. Water-based WD-40 solution is required to heat and completely flake the paper. The logo moved to success. Finally, apply some protective paint. This is the sound shield inside the earphone case. Has a better sound insulation effect when placed at the bottom. Next, use hot glue to paste the decoration. The earphone case is finished. Next is the wiring. It's no surprise that the wires will be refreshed. A new cable combined with braided wire forms a brand new braided acoustic cord. Insert the cable. Use a heat shrink tube to wrap the two ends of the wire. After completing the repair of the earphones, the master will use them with his professional audio equipment. You need a Canon port instead of the usual 3.5 mm. Balanced Canon port for better noise reduction compared to unbalanced 3.5 mm port. This helps to minimize interference and influence from the environment. 3.5 mm jack using unbalanced connection, poor anti-interference ability. The conductor is checked, followed by the frayed metal frame treatment. The next step is to process these two oxidized racks. They're no big deal. Just hit the ball. So just hit the ball again. After polishing, reattach the fixed nails on the sides. So this rack has been processed. So the next thing is to look at this actuator. Fortunately, it's not broken. So just replace the old padding on the surface. You'll also use acetone to remove old padding. The so-called sound actuator is the headphone speaker unit. In this video, it's a kind of dynamic coil, using the principle of magnetic field to push the speaker membrane to emit sound. The specific parameters of this transmission can be referred to above. Buffered air vent helps to regulate the airflow inside. Reduce feedback phenomenon of speaker coil and membrane. Improve the sound quality. Next is the ear pads that look normal, but by the time it's removed, the cushions inside are crumbling. This situation can't be kept, so it's going to keep the power ring underneath and replace the rest. After cutting the skin, use buttons instead of the previous glue. The other part of the button will attach to this ring. Then stitch your hands to attach the two ear pads together. Finally, stuff the soft pad inside, pierce through the middle hole and wrapped. Back with buttons. So the new ear pads are done. Use real leather, gives a much softer feel. The press is also very smooth. In addition, the damaged head also needs to be replaced. Same treatment as ear pads. Just keep the pad underneath and the leather and cushions are done. However, the tightness here is not good. It looks a little dirty. Take the bottom as a sample for leather cutting and matching cushions. There are 2 layers of cushions for added comfort. Use 4-point gripper and simple hand stitch to fix around. Then use a sewing machine to tie the leather and the cushion together. Finally, attach the gasket below. Use an umbrella to make a border. Finishing the top padding looks like this. What do you think? Next is the missing adjustment knob. Use the other button and flexible plastic to make adjustment knob mold. Press the mold and wait about 30 minutes for the plastic to harden. Add screws inside the mold. Black epoxy resin blend. Mix well and pour the plastic into the mold. Wait for the plastic to harden. It doesn't defoam, but it doesn't affect much. The ways of defoaming are usually using anti-foam, fire, or vacuum. Common methods of removing air bubbles include adding anti-foam, combustion, or vacuum use. However, with small components like this, performance is not affected much. After polishing, the new adjustment knob is finished. So the newly built adjustment knob is completely finished. Well, the small bolt for this knob will also be made from a long bolt. So the 2 adjustment knobs are done. The next step is to treat this cracked partition. Usually it's just 3D printing that can create a new one. But there's no 3D printer yet, so we can only use the manual method to create the partition. After creating 2 circles with the hole adjustment tool, and then use tools to fix them. After fixation finished, the next step is to use metal mesh to fill the middle. The way to fix this metal mesh is also quite simple. Just use AB glue to fix it. For better adhesion, need to place heavy objects to compress for a while. Once the glue dries, apply a coat of black matte paint to the front. Next, drill the necessary holes in the partition and use rivets to fix the partition to the transmission. Although the transmission does not have major problems, but after testing, it feels that its performance is not very good. So we'll consider replacing later if possible. So now we can enter the final assembly stage. The assembly process is also not difficult. Just install the components one by one and you're done. Finally, use the adjustable bracket to attach the 2 headphone cases and headband together. So the wired hi-fi headphones produced in the 1980s from Ukraine have been completely restored. Let me know if you need further editing.